All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to talk about a piece of land, but it's so much more than that. The place we now call Israel has, for thousands of years, been an epic battleground for faith, for power, for sheer survival. It's a place empires have coveted, religions were born, and it's been the spark for some of history's most lasting conflicts. And that really brings us to the big question, right? How on earth did an ancient Holy Land become the center of one of the world's most difficult, most enduring conflicts? To even begin to understand what's happening today, we have to go way back, through centuries of history, conquest, and powerful dreams. So our story really kicks off in a place called Canaan. You have to picture it not just as a piece of territory, but as a major crossroads for ancient civilizations. And you know what happens at busy intersections? There are always collisions. It was a prize that was constantly being fought over, constantly changing hands. And look at this timeline. It's just one empire after another. The speed of it is kind of dizzying. You have the Kingdom of Israel, right? Then boom, the Assyrians take over. Then come the Babylonians, and they destroy the first temple, a huge, catastrophic event. The Persians arrive and allow a second temple to be built, but then you've got Alexander the Great and the Greeks, and finally the Romans. And in 70 AD, they destroy that second temple. And that one event, it changes everything for the next 2,000 years. You see, when the Romans destroyed that temple, it wasn't just a military victory. It kicked off what's known as the Jewish diaspora, this massive forced scattering of people all across the globe. For nearly 2 millennia, Jewish people lived as minorities in other lands, somehow holding on to their identity and this powerful, persistent dream of one day returning home. Okay, let's fast forward, a big jump. We're in the 19th century now. All across Europe, this powerful idea of nationalism, of belonging to a nation, is catching fire. But for many Jews, this new age of identity brought something much, much darker with it. And you can really see the threat in 2 different ways. Over in Eastern Europe, you had these horrific state-sponsored massacres called pogroms that would just wipe out entire communities. But then you look at a supposedly advanced place like France, and you get the Dreyfus Affair. It proved that even if you tried to blend in, to assimilate, that deep-seated hatred was right there under the surface. The message was clear: you're not safe anywhere. So, what do you do with that? Out of that fear and desperation, a new political movement starts to take real shape: Zionism. The goal was radical and simple. Stop trying to just survive in other people's countries. The only way to be truly safe was to establish a Jewish national state in their ancient homeland, the land then known as Palestine, which was part of the Ottoman Empire. And the man who really organized this idea into a movement was Theodor Herzl. After the very first Zionist Congress, he wrote this in his diary. It's kind of chilling how prophetic it was. He took what had been a prayer for centuries and turned it into an organized, international political mission. Okay, now we're heading into the 20th century, and this is where everything gets incredibly explosive. That dream of a homeland crashes head-on with reality. You've got collapsing empires, 2 world wars, and now Great Britain is in control of Palestine. This is the period that would test that dream and ultimately forge a nation, literally through fire. And then came the unimaginable, the Holocaust. The systematic murder of 6 million Jews by Nazi Germany. It's a number that's just hard to even comprehend. After that horror, the global conversation completely changed. The need for a Jewish state was no longer just a political debate. It became an absolute urgent necessity for survival. So, right after World War II, with Britain pulling out, the brand new United Nations steps in. They come up with a proposal, the Partition Plan. Let's divide the land, they said. about 55% for a Jewish state, 45% for an Arab state, and Jerusalem, well, that would be an international city. But here's the fatal split, as you can see. Jewish leaders accepted the plan. Arab leaders rejected it completely. With no agreement happening and the British mandate ending, Jewish leaders decided they couldn't wait any longer. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion stood up in Tel Aviv and just did it. He declared the establishment of the State of Israel. And just like that, a 2,000-year-old dream became a reality. But there was barely a moment to celebrate. I mean, literally, the very next day, the armies of 5 neighboring countries invaded. Imagine that. Day 1, you were fighting for your very existence. From its first breath, the state of Israel was at war. And that same war created a profound tragedy on the other side. For Palestinians, 1948 is known as the Nakba, or the catastrophe. Around 750,000 people either fled the fighting or were expelled from their homes. This created a massive refugee crisis that remains right at the absolute heart of this conflict today. So, this all brings us to modern Israel, a nation that's really defined by a difficult and fascinating paradox. It's a state that lives under constant existential threat, but at the same time, it's a place of absolutely extraordinary innovation and growth. And the wars didn't stop. A series of major conflicts went on to shape Israel's borders and its whole military mindset. You had the Suez Crisis, then the shocking, game-changing Six-Day War in 1967, where Israel captured huge territories. And then in 1973, the Yom Kippur War, a surprise attack that nearly broke the country, but, incredibly, eventually led to a peace treaty with Egypt. And the reality of the conflict is, well, it's impossible to ignore. It's physically there. You have things like the West Bank barrier, a network of fences and concrete walls. Israel says it's a vital security measure to stop attacks. Palestinians see it as an illegal land grab and a constant daily symbol of oppression. And yet, at the exact same time, there's this other reality. Driven by necessity and a certain amount of isolation, Israel becomes the startup nation. Think about the tech we all use, GPS navigation like Waze, the very first instant messaging. So many of these world-changing innovations came out of this tiny country's high-pressure environment. And just when you think the situation is frozen, the diplomatic map starts to change. Very recently, we saw the Abraham Accords. This was a huge deal. You have Arab nations like the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco suddenly normalizing relations with Israel. Now, this doesn't solve the core conflict with the Palestinians, but it signals a major shift in the power dynamics of the Middle East. And so, that leaves us here, a nation of unbelievable technological progress, born from an ancient dream, yet still defined by what seems like an intractable conflict. The ultimate question really remains, doesn't it? As all this innovation flourishes in the midst of decades of conflict, what is it going to take to finally write the next chapter?